get. So now everyone should know that the recording is in progress. So thank you so much for joining us in person today. So my name is Harry Emerson. I'm one of the hybrid program managers here at the COA. And so we started the Eastham Focus program earlier this year, just to give folks, residents of Eastham, an opportunities to meet with and talk with and hear from folks from the town's various departments, commissions, and boards. So today we are very excited to have Chief Adam Bohannon and Melanie below with us today. So I know I have a lot of questions for both of them, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So without further ado, we'll let the Eastham Police Department take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I see many familiar faces here, but I'll introduce myself real quick. My name is Adam Bohannon. I'm your Eastham Police Chief. I've been with the department in some capacity since 1997. I was part-time for 4 years, 97 to 2001. Got hired full-time in 2001. Between then and now, I've been a patrol officer, an animal control officer, a detective sergeant, a deputy chief, and I was promoted to chief in 2020, February 2020. I'm dressed a little casually today. I felt like I had to explain why. I don't know, some of you may have seen that we're collecting Toys for Tots for the holiday season. So today was our morning to pull our trailer in off of Route 6 and sort through it and bag them up. And we bagged 852 toys that we're going to be donating this weekend to Toys for Tots. So didn't have time to change.
Are we too late?
No, we'll collect through Saturday.
Thank you.
Sunday morning, we ship it all up to Dennis where it'll be distributed. I have Melanie Ballou with me here today. Melanie's our head dispatcher records clerk, and I'll let you introduce yourself real quick.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So once again, my name is Melanie Ballou, and I have not been at the station as long as Chief has, but almost. So I have been there almost 23 years, and I started as a dispatcher, and then in 2020, 2021, around there, I left dispatching, if you will, and gone over to the records department, which entails all paperwork more or less goes through my office. So reports, firearms, citations, the gamut. So, but I do also dispatch as well. I will, when I say dispatch, what we do is we dispatch for police, fire, and rescue. And I will be talking about the reassurance program. I'm not sure if any of you are, well, I know you are familiar with that process. So I'll go over with that as well. And any questions that you have about 911 dispatching, what we do in a day, anything of that nature. So we are both here to answer whatever questions you may have.
Thank you. So one of the, actually, we'll just jump right into that. One of the, I have 3 or 4 topics I wanted to talk about. I saw that it was put on Facebook that we were going to discuss kind of the year past with the police department and then what we're looking forward to in the future. And a lot of that kind of merges together. We have a lot of fairly big projects going on right now that span over just 1 year. So it kind of went on this year and it's rolling into next year. So I figured we just talk about those projects. And this is stuff that's in addition to our everyday call answering and traffic enforcement and all that stuff. One of the big topics we're working on right now is our dispatch department. Since 1985, I believe, the model in Eastham has been that there's been a dispatch center within the police department. If you call 911, which I don't even know, when did 911, was that around 1985? I'm not sure. It was either the emergency number or 911 in 1985. Somewhere along there, 911 came in. But if you called any of those emergency numbers, they rang inside our dispatch center at the police station. If you needed police, fire, or rescue, it didn't matter. You came to the same person, and that one person would dispatch whatever agency or units or whatever was needed. As you might imagine, since 1985, things have become much more complicated. If you came in and looked at our dispatch center, you would see all the technology that our dispatchers are very good at using. GPS tracking, text to 911, equipment for individuals that are hard of hearing that are calling 911, the regular 911 system. I'm sure I'm missing something, but it's just the technology has increased so much. And what we've been experiencing problems with lately is that when we have an incident in town, such as a car crash or something of that nature, where police, fire, and rescue are all involved in that same call, we're all on the radio or on our phones trying to talk through a single dispatcher that's sitting in a chair in our police station. Since we've added all these responsibilities to the dispatcher, it's almost become impossible during some of our larger scale emergencies for that one person to keep up with all of that. That's not fair to the dispatchers. I tell them all the time, we've set you up to fail at this point. It's where you're being overwhelmed. And it's also not fair to the first responders or the public who, the first responders are relying on that dispatcher to help them get their job done effectively and stay safe. And the public is relying on all of us to do our jobs properly and keep the public safe. So we looked at some options, and what we've come down to is what most of the other communities on the Cape do. We're going to be sending our 911 answering point to the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office. So when you call 911 in Eastham, you won't notice a difference, but somebody's going to be answering the phone actually sitting in an office at the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office. You get the same service. It'll be the same, type of, they'll answer the phone the same way. They're not going to answer it and say, I'm in Barnstable. I don't know what, they're going to just answer the phone and they're going to give you the services you need. If it's a fire or EMS call, they will dispatch our fire department and our EMS right to your house. Again, you won't even notice the difference. If it's a police call, they'll send the call down to the police department where our dispatchers will remain and they'll dispatch the police call. And what that allows us to do basically is we're, in essence, more than doubling our dispatch capabilities by regionalizing with another agency and enlisting their help. I was actually at their office the other day. They have, I think it's 8 dispatchers on duty at one time who are all working on different communities around the Cape. But the benefit is, if Eastham is having a major emergency and maybe Harwich is quiet, that Harwich dispatcher can jump over and help the Eastham dispatcher. And now we've doubled that capacity and we still have a police dispatcher in Eastham. So we worked on that. We went to a meeting the other day. I was fully expecting they were going to say, we'll do this sometime in May, which will take some time this winter to get ready for it. And they told me March 17th is the day. So we have to move quickly. So that's all going to be happening quickly. Again, as Eastham residents, when you dial 911, you won't know the difference. But for us, the dispatchers are going to be much more capable of providing, our dispatchers will be able to provide a higher level of dispatching for police, and we'll have multiple dispatchers up in Barnstable that will dispatch. Do you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, not really, other than I think, as doing it for so long as I have been, and, speaking to you, we're so used to dealing with the public that I was telling the chief the other day that I feel like I'm gonna be losing a part of me in a way, so it's hard to give up power, I guess it is, because our job is to help people. But this really is such a good thing for the residents of Eastham, because like the chief said, it's, setting us up for failure, because I don't want to set us up for anything, but we're just one call away for, so it is a great thing for the community, and I think it's just gonna go great. So nothing's gonna change in that aspect of it at all.
Yes.
Will the non-emergency number still ring in?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the police and fire will still each have a non-emergency number. You can still call the police station. It's just the emergency numbers that will ring.
Okay.
To Barnstable County.
Okay. Thank you.
I use this example when I've been talking about this a lot, but we had an incident, I don't know, it might have been about a year ago now, where one of our dispatchers who is dispatching right now, actually, she's a very, very competent, good dispatcher. She had a structure fire going on. So someone called 911, there was a home on fire, it was confirmed on fire, the fire department was on scene, they were requesting, mutual aid assistance. While she was dealing with that, 911 rang again, and it was somebody saying that his wife was having a seizure, possibly choking, and might not be breathing. So she was kind of faced with that decision. Do I kind of leave the fire department to do their thing and not answer their radio calls so that I can help this medical emergency, or God forbid, the other way around? She made the right decision. She helped the medical emergency, got everything going for that, gave some medical advice over the phone. And it all turned out okay. But that's just a quick situation, an example of how quickly one person can get overwhelmed. And that's just 2 calls. Hypothetically, there could have been a traffic crash at the same time. That could happen.
And that has happened to where we had 2 different major accidents on either side of town. And it was one dispatcher. And during the day, The dispatcher has me to fall back on because I can jump in there because it's a two console. We're actually set up for two consoles, but it's so small, you'd be talking over to the right. So during the day, you do have two, but that incident, you know, that dispatcher was by herself. There was nobody to help her. So it's very hard to distinguish, like, you know, you do the best that you can, but, yeah.
It's like she said, we're one call away from a pretty bad situation, so, March 17th, we'll be hopefully solving that problem.
I have a question.
Sure.
Last night, this was brought to mind, the wind is howling and things are banging around, and I'm in a place where there's lots of trees right around the house. If a tree fell on your house, fell on your car, either injured you or didn't injure you, but there's a tree on your house, is 911 the number to call, or should you call something else?
You should call 911. We won't necessarily remove the tree, but we would come to your house, make sure that there's not a hazard. Maybe it's not an electrical line that could be causing a fire. Make sure your car's not leaking gas, or, those types of things to make sure is your house damaged and it's open to the elements and now you're in danger. We would check all that out. Find you shelter if you needed shelter, and then help you organize with probably like a private tree company or something to actually have the tree removed. So, but yeah, I mean, 911 is not only, it's not just for like extreme emergencies, that's an emergency, if that happens to you in the middle of the night, that's an emergency. And honestly, sometimes calling 911 is easier for us because when you dial 911, we get GPS locations of where the call's coming from, along with some other data, which helps us find you. If you call the business line, we actually had an incident a couple nights ago where it was I think it was an Alzheimer's patient that had wandered away from home. And the sergeant on duty had her call 911 on her cell phone, which the GPS showed us right where she was on the bike trail. And then we went and picked her up and drove her home. So 911 provides us a lot more information than calling a business line. So we'd actually prefer it. Just don't call 911 and ask what time the tide is.
Or when your power is going back on. We love you, but that's not.
I have some just kind of random topics here, stuff that we're working on at the police department that I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions or any topics you might have, but body cameras. Body cameras have been a big topic for police departments over the last few years. My view on a lot of these big technology things, like when our cruisers start to be hybrid cruisers rather than just gas cruisers, we don't want to be the first department to do that because we want to let the bugs get worked out of all the equipment and technology, but you don't want to be the last one either, right? So the time is right now for us to implement a body camera program. The view of body cameras amongst police officers has changed a ton over the last, 10 years. When I started here, if you had asked me about body cameras, I would have been like, I don't want to be on camera like the whole day that I'm working. Do you want to go to work and be on camera constantly? Now I have police officers begging for it because they know that they're doing good work. They want to be on camera. They want to squash frivolous complaints that come in occasionally. It's good for court. When you're writing a report about maybe a drunk driving arrest, if it's on camera, it's even better. So they're asking for it. So we had money budgeted for this fiscal year to purchase body cameras and implement the program. We paused that briefly because a grant opportunity became available, and we were just awarded $134,000, which will implement the program and pay for it fully for us for the next 5 years. So thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of writing, but I mean, it was definitely worth it. It's a lot of money. So though the grant was just approved, that's really where we're at. We have some, financial hurdles to get over, and we'll be ordering the equipment. And our hope is to get the equipment ordered, delivered, and implemented and in full, flawless use in time for next summer. So that when the summer busy months come, every Eastham police officer will be wearing a body camera.
Not this coming 25.
25 summer.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do it spring, winter, spring. You didn't do anything. While we're regionalizing our dispatch center, we're going to implement a body camera. I know it sounds crazy, but we're going to pull it off. Yeah, so by summer 2025, you'll see Eastham police officers wearing body cameras out on the street. some of you may remember that in 2024 at town meeting, it was, funding was approved for us to hire 2 additional police officers with the promise from town management that they were gonna reallocate some other funds so that we could hire eventually a total of 4 new police officers. The reasoning for that was because, as I mentioned, I started in 1997 part-time. I was one of 7 summer officers that we would hire. And my training back then was basically, you know, I don't know, maybe a day's worth of quick training. And then it was, here's your badge, here's your gun, here's your handcuffs. Make the best decisions you can make. Good luck.
They would say, here's the keys to the cruiser.
Yeah. Times are different
Right,
now,
okay.
obviously. Basically with the requirements, and they're all good requirements, it's just that the training requirements are much higher. We would have to train an officer for about a year before they could work 2 months in the summer for us, which just doesn't make any sense anymore. So, the training of any sworn police officer, whether you work 2 months in the summer or whether you work 12 months a year, has to be exactly the same. As it should be. I'm not complaining about that. It's a little bit difficult for communities such as ours, where the population goes up so much during the summer, to kind of find that middle ground where we're not severely understaffed, but we're not overstaffed during the quiet months. So we're going from 17 police officers, which is where we've been at since 1995, to 21 police officers. And just this morning, actually, I got the job offer off of our town manager's desk for the 4th one, so we've hired 4 police officers. It was a little bit of a painful process. We don't get nearly the applications we used to get. I think there's many reasons for that, not the least of which is the cost of living around here. It's very difficult for a younger person that's graduating college to buy a home or even rent a home in this area or close enough to work here. And we've also resisted the urge to hire just anybody. We still go through a very strenuous background investigation. 3 times in this process to hire these 4 people, we dismissed candidates that we thought we were going to hire because we didn't like things we found in their background. So we're trying desperately to maintain grade A employees, but still fill our positions. And it looks like we've done that as of now. So what that means for us is, this spring, we'll have 2 additional officers that'll be completely trained and certified and on the road by next summer. And then 2 more that will be done with their training sometime around the end of the summer. So ideally, I would have liked to back those 2 up so they would have been ready for the summer, but this will work out just a couple months later. Yes.
There are enough vehicles?
Yes. Yeah, we're adding 1 vehicle to our fleet. So the way we do the vehicles is we assign 3 officers to 1 car, so that they work different shifts. So there's 1 officer on the evening, day, and midnight shifts that are assigned to a specific vehicle. And what that does is it means that that vehicle is always available and for that person when they're working. And then also it spreads the mileage between all of our cars so that we don't have, you know, the 1 car that's brand new and then the one that has 250,000 miles on it that nobody wants to drive, right? It just kind of keeps them all even. And really with our vehicles, the name of the game is to have them not break down, because if they break down on the way to your house during an emergency, it doesn't help either of us. So we actually, we've changed the way we replace our vehicles and the way we manage them and maintain them. So we kind of just even the miles out amongst all of them, and they're all in great shape.
Got a crazy question. Do you remember years ago, the road going down to Salt Pond?
Mhm.
There was a silhouette of a police car. Do you remember? It must have been a wooden silhouette or something that was there.
Vaguely.
It was effective. I mean, even I would go, ever thought about that in the summertime?
Not the silhouette. We actually used to park an unoccupied police car out on the side of the road,
Oh,
so that it
Yeah.
would just be sitting there. My concern with that now is, well, there's a lot of expensive equipment in those cars.
Sure.
And when we leave it unoccupied, I mean, we would take some of it out, but I don't know. I think those vehicles are so important to this town, not just us, but the town, that I just think they need to be occupied and protected. We spend more money on the equipment that's in those cars than we do on the car itself. So, it's a very valuable asset rolling down the road. So police accreditation. So there's 3 steps to police accreditation. There is the self-assessment stage, which we were in 10 years ago, 12 years ago. which is basically the time when you're trying to square away all of your policies and procedures to match or satisfy the requirements of the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Board. Then there's certification, which means that you've met, I don't know what the number is, but say it's 50% of the standards of the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Board, which is where we're at now, and we have been for about 10 years. And then there's full police accreditation, which means that it's even another level of standards that have been met through our policies and procedures. Not only that, but also proving that our practices are following those policies and procedures. So we've been working for about 3 years now on getting to that gold standard, that top standard. Our deputy chief, Dan Deschamps, he hasn't quit yet, but I think he's come very close a couple times because of all the headaches involved in this. But ultimately, it's a really good thing. And we are scheduled to have our department assessed for full accreditation in April. We actually, the other day, we gathered about 10 members of our department and we did kind of our own internal assessment. So we basically pretended we were assessors, took all the standards, took all of our policies and our proof. And we found a couple things we needed to change, but that was the point. And we don't see any reason why we won't pass the evaluation in April and become a fully accredited police agency. What that means, I'd love to stand here and tell you it's going to save us, millions of dollars or something. It's not. What it means is that our policies and procedures for our police department are top-notch, gold standard. What that should also mean is as long as those policies are being followed, that our liability comes down. If somebody sues us for something, we have a standard that matches what the state says it should match, and we follow that standard. So it should bring our liability down. It also should, I hope, help us attract employees, should help us attract. If I was an officer that was looking for a job, I'd rather go work for a department that has put the time and effort into this and that has the best policies and procedures out there. So that's my hope. There have been rumors that there might be grant opportunities down the road that are only available to accredited agencies. I haven't seen them yet. If that comes true, then we're prepared. We're there. So it's a pretty prestigious honor. There's only 3 other departments on Cape Cod right now that are fully accredited agencies. I think it's 3. It might be 4, but it's a very low number. And like I said, our deputy chief has put hours and hours and hours and hours of work in this, but it's really everyone on the department. There's many of the standards that involve records retention and records release that involve Melanie. Our firearms instructors, it's, use of force requirements and all that stuff. Dispatching, equipment, vehicles. I mean, it really touches every single piece of the department, and everyone in the department is responsible for something in there. So everyone has kind of come together, and God willing, we pass the assessment in April, and we'll, I guess all you get out of it right that moment is a nice certificate to put in the lobby, but it's also the peace of mind of knowing that our policies are the best out there. So it's almost easier to get assessed than it is to get reassessed, because once you get assessed, your policies pass. 3 years later, they're going to come back and make sure you're following all those policies and you can prove it. So you can't just get assessed and then kind of take a breath and step back. You got to stay right on top of it and make sure you're doing it the right way. Any questions about anything?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I know there's been a tendency lately to share these things with the other 3 towns. Are they also working on these kinds of standards?
When you mean
For the out of camp, so Truro, Wellfleet.
share what? Share?
Well, we share so many services.
Oh, okay, like regionalization stuff?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so Truro, Wellfleet, and Provincetown are not, I don't believe they're at any level of accreditation, if that's what you were talking about. I believe they're all, there's also been talk that down the road, whatever that means, someday, it's gonna be required of every department that you're accredited. So really, if departments were smart, they'd all start in that direction so that you don't have to do it in an emergency when they give you 2 years to get it done. You're already at least halfway there or something. So I know they've all discussed it. I don't know where they all stand. When we need to write a policy, we don't just sit down and write it from scratch, obviously. We call a department that is accredited already. We get a copy of theirs. We change it to meet our, so we would certainly help other departments with, work we've done. Or is that what you were talking about?
Well, I guess, yeah, but also I mean, because there is so much regionalization,
Yep.
because there is so much sharing. No, I guess you answered it.
One
They're
more,
up to snuff too, or.
one more thing we're doing, Orleans is an accredited agency as well, and their chief is on the state accreditation board. So he kind of put together a little team, which our deputy chief is on, that can travel around to other departments and assist them if needed. I think Chatham is somewhere along in the process, and they were having trouble with a particular situation, and that team can go over there and say, show us what you got, show us. A lot of it has to do with the building, like our booking area, our holding cells are required to have certain safety features. And some of these buildings that were built a long time ago just didn't have them, and they had to be retrofitted. So there's different ways to do it, different pieces of equipment you can buy that satisfy the requirements. So this team could travel around and give advice, this is how we did it. Here's some suggestions of how you could do it. So, as far as other regionalization efforts, aside from the dispatching, we actually did look at a model where we were considering building a regional dispatch facility on the Lower Cape, which would have dispatched for police and fire on the Lower Cape. Very expensive, would have taken a long time to actually get it done. It would have been done mostly through grant funding through state 911, but we're talking 6-7 years at least. And I didn't feel we had that time with this model we're using, where we have one person sitting in a room trying to keep up with all these calls. I didn't want to wait 7 years. The sheriff's department, that opportunity came up, and we decided to move in that direction instead, because we can solve that problem by March 7th. Just on that topic, other regionalization efforts we do, we have regional teams on the Cape. The Eastham Police Department, right now, we have 17 police officers. We don't have enough officers to have our own SWAT team, our own crash reconstruction team, our own search and rescue team, our motorcycle unit. So we regionalize with all the departments on the Cape. All the departments on the Cape will put at least 1 or 2 bigger departments like Barnstable and Yarmouth, put more onto each of these teams. So if the Eastham Police Department needed a SWAT team right now, we have a regional SWAT team. We make a phone call, they all get paged, and they all show up here in Eastham, including our officer that's on that team, but we need much help. And vice versa. If Barnstable needs a SWAT team right now, our officer would go to Barnstable and help them out. So that's one of the big ways that we've regionalized, because there's probably only 1 or 2 departments on the Cape that have the staff to have all of that on their own. And even if it would probably be a struggle for them too. Why don't you talk about the reassurance? Okay, go ahead.
Chief,
The drones.
a couple of months ago, you and I had a conversation about traffic safety.
Traffic, yep.
Yeah, and I was talking about speeding on Route 6.
Yep.
Left turns and concerns about traffic safety.
Yep.
You made a couple of interesting points that I took away from that. One, that you have increased the enforcement.
Yep.
And I guess that's connected with additional officers. And that, despite that, the little crashes
Yeah.
haven't changed.
I know.
I thought was
I would love to stand here and tell you they did, trust me.
I also took away that distracted driving perhaps is a bigger cause of,
Yeah,
of the crashes than speeding. I wonder if you could talk about,
Sure.
a couple of months into this,
Yeah.
what's the priority, I guess? is the
so
question.
we have not actually added any officers yet. We've hired them, but they're not trained yet. So we have not actually increased our patrol numbers yet. That's coming soon. In the next few months, it's gonna kind of taper up. The additional traffic enforcement that I mentioned came from, we have 1 remaining summer officer that he's a assistant principal at a middle school in Western Massachusetts, summers to Dennis, and has kept up his police training and just loves being a police officer in the summer. Works out very well for him and very well for us, because it's perfect. He keeps his training up, he comes out, and basically what we do with him in the summer is we hand him the keys to a police car and tell him, go out on Route 6 and all day long, just do traffic enforcement. Someone's speeding, pull them over. That's it. That's all you do. I forget off the top of my head his numbers for the summer, but he was stopping between 10 and 20 cars a day on his shift.
It was in the,
Yeah, 500 and something car
Oh, yeah.
stops.
yeah.
And I would tell him all the time, it's not necessarily about the car you've stopped. It's about the other 300 cars that drove by while your lights were flashing that slowed down, right? That we're trying to control. The idea is not to just give tickets to everybody. The idea is to get everyone to follow the regulations and slow down. So that's one part. When we get these additional officers on the road, what that's gonna do is many of our shifts will have 3 or some will even have 4 officers scheduled on each shift. And what we will do, if we have 4, we will take one of those officers and assign them to traffic enforcement only. So generally, the way we break up our shifts is we have the south end of town from Kingsbury Beach Road to the Rotary. And then the north end of town is a different officer from Kingsbury Beach Road to the Wellesley Drive-In. And then hopefully we have a supervisor to supervise those 2 people. And then now if there's a fourth, that fourth position will be traffic enforcement only. That's all they'll do. So you should see those numbers go up even more. Hopefully that means the number of crashes comes down. I really thought I was gonna look at it and have, a good statistic to talk about. I think some of that is just by chance. If I looked at it over 5 years, hopefully I would see that trend, but this particular year or summer, whatever I ran it as, it just didn't show that. Yeah, and I think from talking to you, and I get myself in trouble when I say this, because everyone thinks speeding, and trust me, there's plenty of people that speed on Route 6 and they need to be slowed down. But the general cause of most of our car crashes is distraction. And I don't mean only distraction from staring at your cell phone. I mean, you're driving down the road and you're not from here and you're looking for fried clams and you see Arnold and then someone stops in front of you and you crash into the back. That's what I mean by distraction. Or you're approaching an intersection that you're not familiar with and someone stops to take a left and the green arrow comes on and or the bike crossing at Fort Hill, right? That's confusing. That's the general cause of our crashes, is that people are stopped to take a left and you're thinking about your next right and you're not paying attention to what's happening in front of you and there's a rear end collision.
The Rotary.
The Rotary is a great example. People coming from Orleans into Eastham on the Rotary, you come by Wendy's and you come on 6A to that ramp. Your tendency when you're rolling down that ramp is to look who's coming, to see if you need to yield. Well, if the person in front of you stops and you're not looking, you're looking to see who's coming. That's what I mean by distraction. I don't mean by devices or anything that happens, but I forget where I was going with that, but that's what we see. Obviously, it's hard to, every crash, we're not able to just go into a vehicle and be like, how fast was this car going when it crashed? And we wouldn't launch that deep of an investigation into every car crash, or we'd be just, that's all we do, right? So, major car crashes that result in a fatality or something like that, there are ways to extract that data out of a car, but it takes days worth of work and paperwork and search warrants and all that stuff. So what I mean by not caused by speed is that the officers that have been to so many of these car crashes can tell when a car was going really fast or generally the speed limit. It might be 5 miles an hour over or whatever, but you can tell when there was severe excessive speed involved or not. And generally, we're not seeing that. It's just resulted, if the crash has just resulted from something else occurring, or quite honestly,
Unrelated.
just human error.
Yep.
I mean, when you put so many cars on this highway and so many things going on the side of it, whether it's sidewalks, crosswalks, fried clams, traffic lights, houses, humans make mistakes, right? They misjudge something, they miss a driveway, they slam on their brakes, there's so many factors going on. When this highway was built, I don't think it was intended for all the stuff that's going on out there. And when you put so many vehicles in such a small space, mistakes happen too. So, it's been a long time since I've been to a car crash where someone meant to do it, right? They're all mistakes, right? They're inattention or just a flat out error.
Yeah, just a random and minor question. You mentioned the crosswalk at Fort Hill.
Mhm.
Do you receive complaints about cars actually not stopping?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I live
Yeah.
from, and I don't trust it.
Yeah.
It's one of those, because I've been there many times, right through.
I am not a big fan of that crosswalk, to say the least. I think the problem with it is that it looks like a traffic light, but it doesn't work like a traffic light.
Yeah, it's bad.
So when you approach drivers that have been driving for a long time, you approach a traffic light, you generally know how it works, right? It's green, it's gonna turn yellow for about, 5, 6 seconds, and then it's gonna turn red, right? This thing works differently. And then it starts flashing red and you have to read the sign. Am I allowed to go yet? I don't like it. I don't know if you noticed, but they have many of those down by the Bourne Bridge at that new work they did on that rotary. It's the same device, but for all those little crosswalks from around that rotary, that's where that belongs, where traffic is already going slow because they're approaching a rotary circle, or in like Cambridge, you know, where traffic's already almost at a stop and people are crossing the street, not on a 4-lane highway where people are doing 40 to 50, sometimes faster miles an hour.
Yeah.
We had many meetings with, the state about this. There was one point where I got frustrated and I was like, you know what, just take that thing down and turn it into scrap metal before someone really gets hurt. Do it. They did make some good changes to it. They added some lights lower on the poles, you'll see, so that it's more like eye level visibility for the cars. They added those speed signs for us. And there was one other thing they did, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yellow lights around it.
And it's gotten better. I don't love it. The state owns it. It's their road. We don't have the authority to just take it down and throw it away.
I was just curious, 'cause it's dicey.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. We had at least one crash there this summer, a rear end crash, because somebody identified it, stopped, and the car behind them didn't because they weren't looking.
Gotcha, thank you.
Sir,
Chief, I know you graduated from Nauset Regional,
I did.
but some of these kids, after 3 o'clock, they seem to be in like a race to get to Brewster and Orleans and Chatham. I don't know if anybody monitors it from the police department point of view. These kids are going really fast and in really nice cars. A
Yeah.
lot of them have nice cars. But
Hmm.
I've been driving over 65 years and never had an accident
Wow.
in different countries as well.
Yes.
But you gotta give room between you and the next car.
Yeah,
Today's drivers, they just don't see the value of that.
yeah. No, I agree with you. You know, I was one of those kids probably one day, you know, but my car probably didn't go that fast, but my first car was in 1984 Ford Bronco too. So most of the time the carburetor didn't work well enough to get it up to that speed, but, yeah, I mean, the school gets out, we know what time the school gets out and, you know, I'll be honest, my wife's a teacher there and I'll throw the teachers into this mix too. You know, everyone wants to get home, right? School's out. We've been here all day and they want to go. We know the times we are out there. I know the officers are out there because they actually pulled over one of my son's friends the other day and gave him a ticket and his dad called me asking me about it. So I know they're doing it. You know, it becomes a manpower thing. Right now, we have 2 police officers working there. When we came in here, they were at kind of a serious medical call. So, you know, if that happens right when school gets out, then there's no one out there. So, as we increase our staffing, we'll cover that better and more. We have a school resource officer too that comes out of the school and, you know, he doesn't do it every day because he has other responsibilities, but he'll come out of the school a couple times a week and try to enforce some traffic. A lot of complaints we get are on the side streets around the school, schoolhouse, Nauset, you know,
And we even do it when, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead, no.
we even do it when the elementary lets out too. So, you know, there's also that
Yeah.
traffic as well. So we do have an officer, if they're, they have the time, we'll monitor that as well. So the elementary and the high school, and like he was saying, the school resource officer is there as well.
sir, question?
Well, when you're talking about all this new equipment and enhancements and all, any talk down the pike of camera?
I knew you were gonna say that. And I go, I have an answer for you. No, because camera traffic enforcement camera speed enforcement is illegal in Massachusetts.
Really?
I want to say I've seen red lights enforced by camera somewhere in Massachusetts, so I think it's by statute or whatever. But that's not allowed right now.
So there's no cameras?
There's no camera enforcement on speed.
So when we're going up to Boston and you're either doing 55 or 90, you have no choice? There's no cameras?
Nobody's checking your speed by camera. No.
Thank
I mean,
you.
you get up to, what is it, New Hampshire, Maine, they do it by aircraft, right? You see the signs, yeah, yeah. But maybe that would be allowed. It's not, I mean, it's a vehicle, right? People will buy a plane. Sir?
The green turning arrow, turning to the flashing yellow turning avenue.
Tell me which intersection?
Any.
Oh, okay,
This
okay.
happens to be an Austin road, but it could be any.
Yep,
So with summer traffic, it gets a little bit more confusing. I guess the idea is to keep the traffic moving forward more quickly with the yellow turning, because now they can move, but
yeah.
when it was all green, but now when it goes flashing. that's-
You're talking about, Nauset by Aspinet, right?
Yeah, but it could be anywhere.
Yeah, no, but I know that one because a lot of people had a hard time with that when it changed, including myself, because I was so used to the way it worked
Yes.
before. Again, it's a state highway, the state engineers
I
look
know.
at it
I just
and,
wonder if you thought it was an improvement and maybe move traffic a little faster because you're not stopped for that green the entire time. You can move on the yellow.
I think that's the point, is that you can turn the opposite direction green and let them go without holding them red
Right.
longer. And then you're still allowing the opposite way to turn left if they need to, and they can.
Right.
I don't know, maybe it probably depends on the situation, but, again, we get questions, complaints about these traffic lights constantly.
Really?
People have opinions about which way they should be and which way they shouldn't be, and the state's answer every time is, we study this stuff, we have engineers that look at every intersection, they do traffic counts, they do speed, and this is what is prescribed for this intersection. And changing that is like, I mean, good luck. Anything else, or, you want to talk about reassurance?
Sure. So, so I am here today just to go over, what we have here in town called the reassurance program. And, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with it or, if they're on it, but, so our reassurance program basically is a service that we provide to where you call the Eastham Police Department on a designated telephone number that you call in and just let us know that you're okay. And we have, people call in every day. Some people call us first thing in the morning when they wake up at 5 a.m. And they're actually the first person that I may talk to that morning as well, when I work the midnight shift. So they call a designated number into the line to the police department. They call in, they say, good morning, I'm John Smith. Hi, John Smith, this is Melanie, have a great day, and they go on about their business. It's really for security and that they know that someone is out there. If something were to happen, we haven't heard from them, because some people don't talk to people at all. Some people are very active and they are more active than I am, and they say, I'm calling in, oh my gosh, I have to go, okay, great. So, so basically it's, you just fill out a quick form and we give you a telephone number and, you call in every day. Now, when people do that, we also like to know, if you have a hidden key somewhere. Because if you don't call into the reassurance line by 10 a.m., we call you and, you may have forgotten, or we have sometimes forgotten to check you off the list, because not only are you calling into this designated line to the Eastham Police Department, being a one-person show, we are also doing other things like answering 911, doing motor vehicle stops, picking up the phone when people call the station, dealing with walk-ins coming into the station. So we can't always answer the phone to talk to you. So we have voicemail. So we will listen to the voicemail and cross you off. But sometimes, we're talking and I say, okay, John Smith, have a great day. And then, the phone rings and I forget to check you off. So we do make mistakes. So, but if we don't hear from you, we then on this list here on this application, we'll know how to get into your house, because we always like to have a hidden key somewhere to where we can get in there. With that said, a lot of people in town can get lock boxes that they can put up themselves, or they can get from the fire department, which you would have to speak to them on ascertaining how to put it up and installing one. So along with the lockbox, because when we don't hear from you, we're the police, we go to your house. So when we get there, we don't want to waste any time checking and saying, oh, we can't get in, they only have a lockbox. Then the fire department gets involved, which is great, but then we're just kind of wasting time. So I always like for somebody to say, oh, I have a hidden key in X spot. So when we get to your house, we can get in, look around, do the surroundings, and you're probably out grocery shopping or something.
Can I just add something real quick?
Yeah.
So when Melanie says wasting time, and the reason is we're coming to check on the person's welfare. And many, many times, I have gone to one of these checks and found someone that had fallen at 2 o'clock in the morning and couldn't get to the phone. And that's kind of the point of it. So that's the time we're trying not to waste, is we just want to be able to get in and give help.
Yes, exactly. So when people say, oh, we'll have a lockbox a little bit, that's great, and I love that idea, but I also wanna know how the police, how we can get in there, because we're the ones that are checking up on you. This is, you know, it's a team project, but we are the ones going there. So you call in every day, and that's basically the gist of it. And the other thing that I'd like for people to have at their house as well, if not for anything, I'm not sure if you all have these at your house. They go on like your refrigerator, your bedroom, next to your bed, and it's a file for life. So when we get to your house, or the fire department rescue gets to the house, and there's something wrong and you're unconscious, you can't talk, we go right to here, and this tells us who we need to call, who your doctor is, whatever allergies you have, whatever information we need to know, emergency contacts, this is what helps us. Because we don't know what medications you're on, we don't know any of that. However, with that said, when you fill this out, if you decide to participate, there are lines to where you can put what you're allergic to and your medications and your next of kin. And if you have any animals, right, who's gonna take care of the animals if something happens. So this is a program, so I've been, like I said, I've been dispatching for almost 23 years. And when I started, we had rows of people on the list of calling in. Around 80 people would call in every day. And,
Now, what are we down to now?
so now we're down to about 23 people, for whatever reason. So, yeah, so it's a great program. We love talking to the people every morning. Sometimes, I feel bad if I can't, and when I have a moment, I'll call and be like, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you, or, it's their birthday, and I didn't get to say happy birthday, something like that. You really get to know as much as you can with somebody over the phone in that short amount of time, so, and I actually became friends with some people on our program, so that's it. If you're interested, please let me know. I'd be happy to give you, it's not even an application, it says application, but everybody can know.
Yeah.
It's just a form, basically. I should probably change that. And then if anybody needs ones, there's little mini ones as well for.
These things are hugely important. So the police department goes to every, or most if we can, rescue calls that the fire department goes to, generally because our cars are already on the road, so we get there first, we get there quicker. And, whenever I walk into a house, I'm looking at the refrigerator, because I'm looking for this, and, I'm not looking for snacks, I'm looking for your file of life. Because when the fire department gets there, they're gonna wanna know, what are you allergic to, what's your medication, who's your emergency contact, well, here you go, it's all right here, and you just hand it over, and they'll even take it to the hospital.
That's right.
So the hospital staff can have it, so.
Exactly, and it even has a magnet, doesn't work that great, I'll be honest with you, but there is a magnet on there that you can put it up. And, with the questions that we ask as answering 911 or whatever questions in general of how you call, we do ask these questions. What medications are you on? What was the last time you took it? Any of that. So we have that information as a dispatcher, and we will relay over the radio, but it's also good to have this so they can, like the chief said, take it with them via rescue. And so this is really, I would love for everybody to have one of these, but I have plenty if anybody wants them. Anyone have any questions? Did I explain it well enough? Yes. All right. Does anybody want, or
We can just-
maybe if you know
So
someone?
question, if there's no key and you suspect that there's something wrong, do they ever break into the house? How do they get into the house
Yeah,
if
so-
they can't?
We try really hard not to do that, obviously. Really, the only time we would do that is if what we'll do is go to the house, if there's no key and everything's locked, we'll try to look in windows, look around. We've seen people on the floor, we break into the house. If we don't see anybody in the house, the doors are locked. There's other clues, do they drive, the car's gone, if they drive, the car's there.
Sometimes even the neighbor will say, oh, Sally Jane, she had a doctor's appointment, I
Got
saw
picked up
her
by
this
the
morning.
council on aging.
Yeah, got picked up. Okay, so good point. So on Fridays, the council on aging goes grocery shopping. So there have been a few people on our reassurance line getting to know people that they've forgot to call Friday mornings. I'm like, I bet you they're grocery shopping. So I call the council on aging, we're like, oh yeah, Betty Sue's grocery shopping. I'm like, very good, thank you very much. So, yeah.
To answer your question though, there have been times where we've like looked in the front door and seen legs on the floor and there's no key and we've had to break a window in the door and lock the door. Yes, but that's the very, very last resort, obviously.
So I'll just leave a couple of, oh, and I think actually the COA, do you have some of these here?
You know, I don't know. We can
I'll leave
certainly
you
check
some.
to make sure
So,
we have-
yeah, and anytime we have them at the station, 24/7, we're there, so if you or you saw, someone you know, feel free to.
Definitely follow up on that.
Yeah,
So we hit everybody with some kind of random police topics today. Those are kind of the things that are going on in our world right now, in addition to the day-to-day operations of the department. Does anyone have any questions left about anything at all, police department related, sir?
I just want to compliment you and the crew on the success of reducing the number of fireworks calls.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, where we live.
Yes,
It's been a hassle for 30 years.
yeah,
But it's getting better.
yeah. So what we've tried to do, we've, 4th of July, obviously, 4th of July weekend, people come here on vacation, and probably some people that live here, they light off fireworks, amateur fireworks, and fireworks are illegal in Massachusetts. So there's a lot of other stuff, obviously, but fireworks can be very dangerous in certain settings, or in every setting probably, but more dangerous in others. So we've been trying to kind of taper the use of amateur fireworks, showing people that there are professional displays you can watch. And what we've done the last few years is we've put additional staff on and just basically parked our staff in the major parking lots of the landings. And the idea is just that we don't have to respond and take your fireworks away because we're already there. When you get there, you're not gonna get out of your car with your big box of fireworks, just carry them. And it seems to be working. I don't for a second think we've eliminated it, but, all we can really hope to do is.
Just there are a lot fewer, it seems like,
Good. I always root for high tide during,
Yeah.
4th of July, less beach, right? So we could order that every year, it'd be great. Anything else?
Adam, I enjoy seeing the monthly activity review.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, do you folks remember Art Arena, our select board
Yes,
member? I loved Art. Art and I would have spirited debates about traffic, but respectful debates. And that was actually his idea, because we started talking about the addition of officers and the need to increase our staff and how we get that message out to the community leading up to a town meeting vote. And he said, why don't you do a report every month about all the activity you have, show the public what you're doing. Perfect, it's a great idea. He actually, California, he lived for a while. His department there did it. So he showed me an example of what they did. And I think it's great for, certainly what you're reading is not everything we're doing. It's just a small little piece of it, but we're trying to grab even the more, sometimes the more serious calls, sometimes a call might have a little humor to it. And then we give you the numbers and everything. So it just shows you each month that there's a lot of work going on. And our deputy writes that up too, so he's a busy guy.
I stumbled into your activity report one time online. Since then, I went back to try to find it and I couldn't. So
So we post it on our Facebook page.
it's on the Facebook.
Every, second, third of every month, we get it out for the month before.
Okay,
So every month it's on our Facebook page.
and it's on your Facebook.
Yeah, Eastham Police Facebook page. Yeah. We probably should post it on our website as well for people that don't use Facebook, but Facebook seems to be the method of communication for most.
I was just going to say the same thing. So we were thinking along the same lines. We only moved here 2 months ago. And, the first thing I did was download the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with the report on a monthly basis.
Yeah, we, our officers have kind of gotten used to it too, so they'll bring something to our attention, like, hey, this might be good for the monthly report. So we just kind of keep a tally going all month of what we need to write up, and then we write it up. So, yeah. Is that it? We explained everything so well. didn't we?
Now, if you do not have a wellness, then you call every morning, but if something should happen to you, how do you notify the police department of the fire, how to get into your house? Like I have a lockbox, but If you don't have my number to get into it, is there a?
Did you install that lock box yourself?
Yes.
Or- Okay, so what I would suggest you to do is to go to the fire department and the police department. So we can put you into our MasterCard file in our program, in our computer program. We can put you in there if you're not already in there. And then we can put like a caution tab, and you can tell us what that code is. So when we go over to your house, we can see, you know, the code is 1, 2, 3, 4, and where it is, how to get into it and all of that. Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, but I would also let the fire department know as well, just in case, yeah.
The kind of legalization of marijuana, how do you determine if somebody, because there's no breathalyzer for it?
You got another hour?
Is that it?
First of all, I want to say, so we were concerned about that,
Yeah.
how that was going to affect our
Yeah.
operations. It really hasn't changed much.
Really?
The dispensaries have been top notch, zero problems. The security requirements
Right.
on them are,
Right.
you know, way up higher to keep their licensing. So that's been not a problem at all. Driving, while under the influence or intoxicated, the short answer to your question is that it's incredibly difficult. The officers can tell, so driving impaired is just that simple. Like if they pull you over and they smell marijuana and the reason they stopped you was because you were bumping into the curb, well, you're impaired. Like the problem with marijuana for us, as opposed to alcohol, is we have no tests to determine how impaired you are. Whereas alcohol, you take a breath test, it'll tell you're, you know, above the legal limit, you're twice the legal limit, you're 3 times the legal limit. There's no test for marijuana. The way we look at it though is if you're driving to the point where you're causing a crash or you're about to cause a crash, we just take action on it. It's probably not going to make it very far through the court process because that test is lacking, but that's okay, you know, until the state catches up with that someday and things change. Our job is to make sure that the roads are safe. So we do that. If the case gets dismissed because there's no blood alcohol reading or blood content reading like there is for alcohol, then so be it. There's nothing we can do about that.
Are they working on the test? Or is there
I mean, I heard years ago that they were. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it recently.
and not so much even the smelling it, which of course in the summertime, you do.
Yeah.
When you're just driving down the road with the windows open, but the gummies, you know, that are, and the delay and kicking in and all that stuff, it's like.
Quite honestly, I mean, you could be driving down the road under the influence of NyQuil, right? And you're
Right,
operating
that's-
under the
yeah,
influence of
that's true.
NyQuil.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
under
true.
the influences of anything, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
the alcohol has a specific charge because it's been such a prevalent thing, but, I mean, they tell you if you're prescribed Percocet, you shouldn't, you know,
Sure.
drive or
Drive or
heavy
use
equipment or whatever.
machinery.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's,
It's true.
and that could be different for everybody. So if I take a Percocet, I might be able to drive fine. You might take one and not be able to, and you're under the influence and I'm not under the influence. It's not influencing me, you know, so, but it's very difficult. It's impossible for us without taking someone to the hospital for a blood test to determine how. And quite honestly, even if we did, I don't know if the court would even know how to evaluate it. So
Yeah.
short answer is we just take our action based on the operation of the vehicle and then
Okay.
the court can sort it out however they want to.
I'm just finding more and more, even, you know, especially even people driving too slow, you know, like at 9 o'clock at night, you know,
Oh,
coming
I
up
like hearing
Wellesley
that.
or
People are
whatever.
driving too slow.
Well, it's a mix, it's slow and fast together that don't mix.
You know, it's like, gosh, why is somebody going 30 in a, you know, on the highway? You know, that's disconcerting too. It's
Yeah.
like, why is this car going so slow?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm chuckling because that happened to me the other day. I worked a double and in that double, I think the weather got down to like 20 degrees, right? So my car was cold. So
oh,
I try to warm it up a little bit before I leave. I don't have a car starter, right? So I go and I'm like, all right, I sit in the car for like 5 minutes and I'm just leaving my midnight shift. So it's like 8:15 in the morning. I'm the only car on the road, right? And I leave and I'm just putting along and all of a sudden I'm, you know, in the right lane and I see a car coming. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like, why is this woman going so slow? And I'm like, I just want to see hours.
Hopefully
So I
you weren't
just-
smoking either.
So I was just crying because they literally looked at me like, what? Fine.
yeah, it's just weird.
Pretty
I'm just finding that more and more now.
We have to
Their
separate
behavior.
our actions, what we do to keep the public safe from what happens in the court. Because if police officers worry too much about what happens in the court, it's gonna be a long career. So
yeah.
you do your job the best you can, you send it to the court, whatever happens there. And the marijuana thing is kind of, that's where we kind of lose it a
You're working
little
it
bit.
out,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. All right, we got 1 minute to spare.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll put those files of life and the forms for the reassurance program on the back table. If anyone's interested, or if you know someone that might be interested, a neighbor or something, take them with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But actually, it's something to worry, mention it, I'm not gonna remember unless you come to it.
Oh, not be here.
Okay.
Yeah.